Gigwig, Vijay Martashev, Waltuko May. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you're all doing well. God bless each and every one of you. A very special guest tonight is coming on our show, Mr. Eoin Lenihan. He's written a very, very good book. It's went down very, very well. Vandalizing Ireland. About the way that Ireland is right now, the NGO system, the mass immigration, the stranglehold these NGOs have on Ireland. I'll let him explain it more. He's the author of the book. You can get his book. I think it's the only place you can get a signed copy by Eoin Lenihan himself. Is on our shop. So if you want to get his book, click the link in the bio and get his book now. I was just speaking to him there now, and of course we got chatting for about 10 minutes, so that's why we're a wee bit late. So apologies for that. But look, please let me know in the live chat where you're off from. If you're re-watching the show, please let me know. We'll say our Lord's Prayer as Gaelic first, and then we will bring him on. So please join us. And then you agus agus spirit ni amen. Arn yahar atar now, go ni for Daniel, go dagd the rate, go nyanter the hollow and talov mar yanter now. Ar nar na hul to doing you, agus might do our fecta, mar a waihamage dar vectin a fiend, ag na election a gahu, ag seer shina ulk, amen. Nanya manahar agus spirit ni amen. Okay, everybody, welcome to tonight's show. How are we all doing? Michael O'Donnell says this man is a national treasure, just like his father, the great Eddie Lenihan. 100%, not many people know that, but his father is the great Eddie Lenihan. Had a lovely chat with his father in Galway once after a night listening to magical fairy stories. Yes, that's true. Yeah, and we sell a couple of his father's books on our shop as well. Cade Milifalchus, his booker. Renum, good man, thanks for moderating. Gillian says his book is excellent. Carlo says Gillian, amen. Newton Ards County Down says Mags. Right, let me go to Instagram. I wish the English have the guts to make the stand the Irish have. Hello from Belfast says Matthew. South of the Sirens. Hello, good to see you. Marlene Bolton, good to see you. No sound, no video. I think we're working all right. Okay, says Susan. Brian, what about you? How's it going? So hello from Kildare. Good stuff. Look, without further ado, let's bring on Eoin here now. Actually, just let me show you here first. Is this right here? So this is our shop. You can get Eoin Lenihan's book delivered to your front door anywhere in the world. This is the only place you can get a signed copy of Eoin's book. So, click the link in the bio, get a signed copy now, support our work. What else have we got? We've got a new jersey. If you like this one, you can get our Irish Republic Shield and Hearn Gaelic jersey. This is our new jersey we just released. You can pre-order it now. It's the Erin Go Bra jersey. Absolutely beautiful. Got the kind of Celtic knots, Janta and Erin, made in Ireland. And it's got a lovely era Celtic Cross badge on it as well. So pre-order now. Click the link in the bio. Support our work. Now let's bring on the main man himself. Let me mute myself while I bring Eoin on here. Eoin, can you hear me? Oh, hold on a second. Sorry, I gotta change the audio settings. Give me a second, Eoin. I hope my audio settings is okay. Is your audio settings? Maybe you need to change yours, Eoin. Or is it mine? Oh God, let me see here. No, it should be okay. Can you hear me, Eoin? You can hear me. I can't hear you. God, we had this problem before the live stream, but we fixed it. But now we seem to be going back again. I just want to make sure I've all my settings correctly. Yes, I think mine is all correct here, Eoin. On my end. Speakers. Yeah. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Do you want me to call you back again? Okay, hold on. Let me call him back here, right? Yeah, we were talking to each other on the phone about 2 minutes ago. Well, first of all, I called him, and then it didn't work, and then I called him back in, and then it worked. So, as I know, he's having We're having some technical issues here, so give us a second. Aye, I hear you now, Eoin. Good man. Thanks so much for joining.
Brilliant. That's great.
Right on, look, we'll get straight into it. I just talked or mentioned your book there beforehand. We'll just briefly, I suppose, we'll discuss a number of things. What's your book all about? And it's gone down very, very well. I think the Irish Patriot Store, our shop, is the only place you can get a signed copy. So what is your book all about?
I think essentially it goes into the roots of what all of the breakdown in social cohesion that we're seeing at the moment, even including last week's fuel protests. That what I do is that I begin by taking the example of Killigill House or Roscahill House Hotel, as it was above in Galway, which was set on fire in 2023. And I basically dissect how we got to this point. I hear a lot of the feedback there now. Is that all right on your end? I hope I'm not interfering with your.
No, go on ahead. I'll turn my speakers down.
Okay, great. Yeah, but I kind of just wanted to take that fire as a jumping off point and say, look, how do we get to the point where we have a small, close knit community here, where somebody. We still don't know who, but somebody felt that their only way of being heard, and when they said no to an iPass center being shoved into their community, was to burn the place down. How do we get to this point? So I then widened that to look at how there was, more than 30 fires at iPass centres all around the country by mid-2024. And so I say, how is it that Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael have felt so emboldened and so entitled to act in this authoritarian manner? And so what I do is I go and I trace the economic and social roots of their governance, going right back to the start of the state, but with the critical juncture being the 1970s, when both parties, long before they went into government together, both parties de facto became one when they both agreed to joining the EU, which was largely to subsidise farming, and when they pursued an aggressive FDI, foreign direct investment model based on coaxing as many American multinationals as they could into the country. That worked fine until the 90s. And then it was in the early 00s when they really put that model on steroids, which led to our economic crash. But rather than taking time out to say, listen, what went wrong after the 2008 crash and 2010 bailout, what all Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael did was revive perform CPR on the old FDI model and put it on steroids yet again. And so they just double down in attracting American multinationals, which we know now overwhelmingly in the 90th percentile only employ from overseas, especially India. And so it's led to massive social problems with social cohesion as young people. 40% of all people, working Irish people under the age of 35, are now stuck at home with no hope of moving out. And we saw it also with breakdowns, like we saw with the hauliers and farmers last week, whereby our over-dependence on foreign oil and the Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael's unwillingness to invest in native industry, to drill offshore maybe for oil and gas and whatnot, and their fanatical support of EU directives such as the net zero carbon taxes, has brought the country to its knees and has created civil unrest like you and I have never seen in our lives. So the book covers all of this, how we got there. It pays special attention to the NGO sector and academia and how they've created a wedge between the electorate and the government, and how we got to a situation where a Fine Gael TD could resign 2 years ago and told the Irish Times that he would have had more influence on government if he had been an NGO head than he had as a backbencher in government. So that tells you everything we need to know about the state of play today. So this book, it predicts a lot, I suppose, of what happened last week and what is yet to come. Unfortunately, I don't think we're headed in a very positive direction, at least not while Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, and worse, the supposed opposition, who have really been silent partners, Sinn Féin, are the people to benefit politically.
Good man. Also, that was your book, Vandalizing Ireland. If people want to get that book, they can get it from our store. A signed copy, actually. Click the link in the bio. Order the book now. Support Eoin's work. Support our work. Get the truth out there. And when you're finished with the book, pass it on to your friends and family.
Right.
So, look, you touched on the protests here the past couple of weeks. the so-called fuel protests, I think it's kind of evolved into a more anti-government protest in
Exactly
general. What's your, like, we've had time now for the dust to settle. What is your overall take on the protest now? And do you
I
have
think
any
you're
heart, or do you feel good about the future, or the so-called Irish nationalist movement might grow in this?
Oh yeah, for sure. The first thing though, there, I think you're dead right. I think, sure, yes, it was a fuel protest, but the roots are much deeper than that. We've seen a massive government discontent since, in earnest since around 2022 on, since the Ukrainian war brought over 100,000 Ukrainians here, and that led to forced IPAS settlements into these small villages, which resulted in standoffs, fires at IPAS centres, and the police being unleashed on local communities. And we saw that there this week with the fuel protest, the exact same handbook, the exact same playbook as they unleashed in Newtown Mount Kennedy, as they unleashed in Coolock and in Clonmel. That was that as a first point of reckoning, the government unleashed the Gardaí on protesters and the army as well, allowing army vehicles to support them in Whitegate at the refinery in Cork. So this government are so out of touch, as I said, anyone who wants to read the book will get it in details. It's an evidence-based book, and they'll see how it came that these NGOs, union chiefs, etc., have managed to capture the ear of the government and have insulated the government in such a profound way that they've completely lost touch with their grassroots voters, even their own. And we saw that with Fianna Fáil. They were the big losers this week. Out at the demonstrations and protests, there was massive blowback against Fianna Fáil, such that Independent Ireland, and Eoin, who really were the big victors this week, both of them from day one supported protesters out in the streets, but Independent Ireland's website went down last Monday because so many people were trying to sign up to join the party. And2 said that they've seen record numbers as well. I believe even the National Party have said it as well. So I would assume that everyone on the right benefited here. Now this evening we saw And2 say that I believe it was 7 councillors they're in talks with who are planning on defecting our independents, if they're independents, joining And2. And Independent Ireland also said that they're in talks with several councillors to come and join the party. So there's no doubt that the right has won. Now I would say that And2 are centre left slightly. I don't think that they're right as such, and Independent Ireland are centre right. But I think that there's no doubting that those two are the big victors of the week. Past Fianna Fáil have played. They couldn't have played it any worse. But what happened, you see, is Jim O'Callaghan decided to continue with the playbook that they had rolled out on the IPAS protesters. By, as I said, first response is force. Micheál Martin, he tried to sully the name of the protesters by delegitimizing them. He said he would only talk to recognized union bosses, but the reality is that a trade union boss is the same as an NGO boss. They're bought and sold by the government. Anyone who's a union rep, he has one eye on a job in government later. He'll either become a politician or he's going to get the plum job at a semi-state body or a state body. And just as an NGO head is always looking for more money or a job in politics, as we saw with what's his name, the gentleman with the Green Party who was kicked out last time. It doesn't matter. But anyway, the point is that these are bought and sold institutions, the NGOs and the union heads. Micheál Martin wanted to try and bully through with this tried and trusted system. The demonstrators, fair dues to him, said, no, we're a grassroots movement, and they wanted to operate and to negotiate on their own behalf. So the government just said force. And so it's blown back quite spectacularly on them, particularly on Fianna Fáil, and I can't blame them. Now for the right wing, as you said, who benefits? No doubt the right benefits that we've seen. So we can say with evidence, just looking at the defections, the crashing of the site, and what Eoin and Independent Ireland are saying, the grassroots of Fianna Fáil in particular are breaking right. This is significant because after the collapse in 2010 of the economy, there was no right-wing option out there. When the economy completely collapsed in 2010 and we were bailed out to Europe, and they came in, the Troika came in to manage our affairs, the only option for anyone who was disaffected was to go left, and they did. They went left to Sinn Féin, boosting their numbers to record highs. People Before Profit, again, were a nothing party until this collapse. And so it's been very heartening for me to see that this week, that I think anyone on the right, you will have problems with AN2 and Independent Ireland. You know, it's a broad spectrum. We all have our priorities and our focuses and whatnot. But I think we should all be thankful that at least we see that the protesters, this working class demographic, proper hard-working working class, the hauliers, the farmers, that they're now breaking right and they're not being fooled by Sinn Féin. In fact, we saw on social media there was several protests last weekend where Sinn Féin were run out of it entirely. And I have to be honest with you, I didn't think we would get there that fast, but I'm delighted to see that people now, beyond, say, what you would see on social media, beyond the bubble, say, are beginning to realise that Sinn Féin certainly aren't the answer to Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael.
Yeah, Sinn Féin are Marxist, globalist, communists. They're EU loyalists. Like, they support mass immigration, they support abortion. They're left leaning as can be. And like you say, after the crash in 2008, 2010, people defected towards Sinn Féin. So people need to really wake up to Sinn Féin. And you mentioned their Independent Ireland. There's an election. There's two by-elections now, Dublin and Galway, coming up in a month or so. Independent Ireland are running a councillor, Noel Thomas. I like Noel Thomas. I think he's very, very brave. He was a former Fianna Fáil councillor. A couple of years ago, he came out and just stood down from the party and stood with the people of Galway. I don't know, you might know more about this than me, but his area, or a certain area in Galway, were getting an iPass centre, and he said, look, Fianna Fáil have lost touch. I'm standing with the people of Galway. And he went as an independent and he won in a huge landslide recently. That shows you don't really need the party machine. And he's running now for Independent Ireland. And I looked at the bookies there last night, and he's actually odds-on favourite to win a seat now in the Dáil. And I really hope he does get elected to the Dáil. So Independent Ireland have done well. Like, I've spoken to the boys down in Athlone, and they were happy to be interviewed with me. It's just good to see. A lot of them, they'd be afraid to speak to me because they might get called names, but it seems like that is broken down now. Like, they know I have a big platform, they're willing to speak to me, and of course it's done them no damage, only it's done them really, really well. They've done well with the Mercosur trade deal, opposing that, now opposing these huge spikes in the fuel costs, and it's good to see. But in my opinion, they're not hard-lined enough. I'm hoping we can all push them more to the right, particularly regarding immigration. I've heard a few of them talking about, we don't mind as you come here legally. But legal immigration technically is the biggest problem, because in your speech there in the European Parliament recently, you touched on this. 2,000 Indians are coming into Ireland every single month, but they're coming here legally. They're not breaking any laws. Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, so you made a couple of points there, and the first one on Noel Thomas. Oh, I think it's muted. Yeah, I saw it just said that it was muted there, so just for your audience, just in case. Now we're back. Oh, apologies. I just see it on the screen there. So anyway, the first point there, I think I agree with you. I think Noel Thomas is a great candidate, and I think he's deserved his place on the ballot, and I'll certainly be backing him to win that seat in Galway West. As you said, he was incredibly brave when back in 2023 there was the protests outside Killigiel House, or I think they call it Ross House Hotel, up in Roscahill in Galway. Tiny community, totally reliant on fishing and on tourism. He stood with the people there, and when that house was eventually burnt down, his house was raided afterwards. He was, he officially left the party, but I would imagine that, he was pushed. What did I say? Jump or be pushed. But I would say that he showed his worth there, and this past week he was extremely brave again, standing with the people of Galway down on the docks in Galway. And again, that was another protest that was shut down by force with the Gardaí, and he stood firm the whole time. So I think that he'll do very well. I only hope that he gets enough second and third preferences to push him over the line. He's going to have to do very well on first preferences, because you know the left have this alliance agreement for these 2 upcoming elections, and so he'll need to do well. Although maybe Fianna Fáil voters, a lot of them might give him a second preference. The other point you're making on that I think is really important there on Independent Ireland, pushing them right, and on migration, I think you're right that we need to be pushing these parties as far right as we can. Look, Eoin and Independent Ireland are imperfect for, like say, for many people, but they have their bums in the seats until 2029. Anything that we would like to see done, they're the ones who are most likely to listen to us, and so we have to continue to coax them as best we can further and further right. And I think they will have seen after this past week that it's perfectly okay to be right wing. You know, it's just that it's not the dirty word, or it's not as socially unacceptable as it was before. Now, the last point there too that you made about my speech in the EU, which I'm so happy to see on Facebook, it's just about to hit 500,000 views. So it really resonated, and it's got over 100,000 on my YouTube channel. So it blew up, and I'm delighted to see it. And I've gotten amazing feedback from people in Ireland and abroad who are forced abroad. But they're all in agreement with that, like, you know, which is that I know my stance will still be too strong for a lot of people, but my attitude has been for several years that all politics is migration politics at this point. And it's particularly so in Ireland. As you said, legal migration is the big issue in Ireland. And we can show it is by various metrics. Illegal migration, well, what that's doing is costing us over €1 billion a year in IPAS accommodation. And then, but the problem is that when these people are churned out of IPAS and into the private market, well, it's not really the private market. What's happening is the government is buying up properties for social housing into which these people will be pushed. And so that's gobbling up housing stock at the bottom of the private housing market. Now, the second problem is legal migration. As with the way that our foreign direct investment economy is set up at the moment, the top earners are in tech, and these are for some reason our government keeps going after tech companies, and these are overwhelmingly in the 90th percentile now, hiring from overseas, and in particular India. And so what you have at the other end of the spectrum now, as well as gobbling up from the private housing stock at the bottom, we have it from the top, because you have Indians coming in around 2,000 a month on average, mainly in high-earning healthcare, but also tech jobs, who have their choice of housing. And so what that's led to is 40% of working people under the age of 35, Irish people, are stuck living at home. They've done everything right. They've worked their whole lives. They'll have gone to college maybe, they'll have specialised in a degree, they'll have gone on, got a job, done everything right, and their reward, they'll have no hope of ever moving out of home because of disastrous mass migration policies, legal and illegal, by this government.
Yeah, that's a shocking indictment on the Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael regime.
Absolutely it is. It just shows that, again, it's shocking financial mismanagement, economic mismanagement over decades. Because and again, I go into all of this in the book. I go into the roots of the foreign direct investment. I trace it up through and look at all the major changing points. So the first one for me was Ireland peaked in 1995, 96, because up to that point, foreign direct investment largely worked for Ireland because it worked for us, the people, not the other way around. We didn't work for it, it worked for us. And it was in 1995 we hit full employment. And this was the first point in our history that we had to turn to immigration to plug holes in our workforce. Never happened before. But up to that point, though, we were largely bringing in pharmaceutical companies, which was fine because Ireland has some of the best science graduates in the world. We produce a lot of science graduates, always have. And they were bringing in tech. But you see, at that point, it was mainly hardware, you know, that we're bringing in. They were building the components. Whereas now, since all of these big companies have offshored their what you call that, their intellectual properties in Ireland. The vast majority of what they're looking for are software engineers and software workers, and those we just never produced in big enough numbers in Ireland. We never have, and we never will. Anyway, AI is likely to wipe them all out, these jobs out very soon anyway. But the point is that up to this point, we never had enough workers in this direction. So my question always is, why on earth was the government attracting in American multinationals in jobs that we cannot fill? So we had American multinationals squatting in Ireland for tax breaks, bringing in Indians now who, so it makes no sense. This is catastrophic financial mismanagement. But that went on steroids from the 00s on. And as I said, it was under Bertie Ahern's government that we really started pushing this way once they saw the housing Ponzi scheme begin to wobble in Ireland, and they doubled down on foreign direct investment. And once everything collapsed, that's what they decided the quickest way to get the country back on its feet, the quickest way to make sure we keep ourselves in a job for life politically, is to double down, triple down on foreign direct investment. And it just doesn't work for us.
It really doesn't. Like, I was just thinking there when you were speaking, like a lot of the farmers and truckiers, like their fathers would have voted Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil. And like I farm and I speak to farmers. When I bring up like immigration and things like that, they all, I don't know one farmer that disagrees with me and says, yeah, we need to bring in more migrants. They're all like, yeah, there's too many people here. We need to close the borders. They like, like when I bring up things, they're very hard lined. But I'm like, why do you keep voting for Fine Gael? Have you ever heard Leo Varadkar or Simon Harris talking about immigration and LGBT and abortion? Like, what is wrong with you? Why do you keep voting for these people?
I think it's a very, very important point. Look, that's the point now is that what's the key voter base of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, we know this from data, post election data, is that it's the plus 65 crowd. So they are overwhelmingly, it's the oldies who are voting for these. And there are two dead parties from 55 down, which I do believe, I don't think it's any conspiracy theory to say that that's why they're naturalizing so many citizens now, is that they're trying to they know they're dead parties amongst young people, so they're trying to import a new cohort of voters. However, what we do know from the data is that the over 65s are their core base and what keeps them in power. What I was able to show in the book is that this also neatly aligns with RTE viewership. So it's no accident that 750 million has been pumped into RTE to keep them afloat. It's no accident that the government pumps millions through all of the so-called private media as well in Ireland, because there isn't this sort of three media conglomerates in Ireland. There's the Irish Times Trust, there's the Bauer Media, and there's Media Huis. Those three have completely over-leveraged themselves, gobbling up all of the news landscape, media landscape in Ireland, from local press to radio stations and so on and so on. So much so that not a single one of them can survive on their own 2 feet without government grants, and they haven't been able to since before COVID. And so what's happened is that the government keep them afloat through advertiser revenue, by cutting the VAT to zero, while other bigger, more important industries are struggling with 12.5%, by offering nice plump positions to media journalists as government advisors, by Commission na Man, the big one. Commission na Man, which again I go into detail in the book, they are an extremely left-wing, a radically left-wing activist organization. If you look at their mission statements and their guiding principles, and they hand out grants now to newspapers, to media bodies to create documentaries and whatnot, based around government agenda. So by doing positive spin on issues like migration, the environment, and stopping the rise of populism. So this is all very clearly documented. So what I would say is, your friends, these farmers, these lads who are out there doing a hard day's work, they don't have the time to go through all of this. They come home and switch on RTE News, and they have no idea that it's bought and paid for propaganda. It's literally the PR arm of the government at this point. And so I think there's Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael have been extremely smart in a devious way. That is, that they understood their shrinking parties, their shrinking voter bases, and to cling on to power. They don't need to appeal to a broad spectrum. They just need to invest money very wisely in a couple of critical areas, and the media is the most critical.
Yeah, I'm sure you saw there during the height of the protests, the fuel protests, they were going to like hit pieces on some of the protesters. Your man James Gilhun, or whatever how you pronounce his name, they came out with severe hit pieces, real bad ones, and the media it was like word for word. All the mainstream media they copied and pasted the same articles. It's like Pravda News or something in the communist Russia. They're all working and aligned with each other.
Anyone who sticks their head up on the right, or the perceived right, is going to be the subject of vicious personal attacks. I know that myself from my thankfully brief interactions with the Irish national press, that they're not interested in reviewing this book. They're only interested in trying to cut me down, because they can't argue with this. The reviews have been stellar, and they can't argue with it. It's been a #1 bestseller. So instead they'll try and smear me. Thankfully I'm a normal guy. There's not a lot to smear me on. But what we saw, exactly what you said, that anyone who does this, I remember the famous Nick Delahanty interview he did with on what was it, Virgin News, where you had Kieran Cuddy, up in his face like this. But anyone, no matter how mild their beliefs are, is going to get torn apart like this. So this week I wasn't at all surprised to see this. So my understanding of what happened with this leader is that some independent reporter from the west of Ireland, I believe he's based in Mayo, came up with this hit piece. He obviously, now I've never seen this happen, whereby he sold this. So normally I'm a contributor to newspapers, right? So if I have a news story, I'll give it to one of my regular contributors. I contribute sometimes to the European Conservative, to the Federalist in America. It's even to Gript. It's never happened to me. And in fact, I've never, it goes against all the principles of independent journalism, that a story that I wrote has gone out across multiple news outlets in a synced fashion. It's not possible, because what you do is, when you're an independent journalist like this, you're selling your story to the highest bidder. Essentially, is the concept, right? You give it to somebody, and you can't do anything until they've given a right of we're going to take this or reject this. Because the idea is that if I give something to the Irish Times and give something to the Irish Independent, well, I'm screwed if the Irish Times delay getting back to me but publish it, but the Independent have already gone back to me quicker and says yes, we'll publish it, but then the Irish Times gets in ahead. Well, then I'm liable for, actually often legally in some cases, if I do that. Usually won't come to that, but it's never happened in my experience that a story like this can go out. So it was obviously coordinated, and it was obviously a classic hit piece, a classic smear against this man. And two things happened from that. First of all, there's a thing that anyone on the right is hateful, right? You're a bad man, you're hateful, you're unfeeling, you're a monster. Well, like what, because the left likes to dehumanize so that they can then attack. But I'm a very sensitive man, and I've grown up, when I grew up like in a rural area, I knew, before I was 18, I knew 5 people who had committed suicide. I know how hard it can be growing up in rural Ireland. I know how isolated it can be for a lot of men, young and older. My feeling when that came out was that these people would counted as a win if he had gone home and killed himself that night. Like it was that level of vitriol. It was that level of foreplanning. It was that level of malice. That this wasn't just to discredit the man. This was to deeply, mortally wound the man. I was so happy the next day that I saw Senator Sharon Keoghan come out, and she did a talk with him up in Dublin, and she put the arm around him proverbially. And I thought, fair dues to that woman, because that man would have gone home that night. God only knows what he was thinking, his whole world caving in around him. Like, this was the most coordinated hit I've seen, the most vicious hit I've seen in a long time. And so then for her to come out. But you see, there's nobody that nobody thinks like this or talks like this, because the whole narrative around people like that, like you, like me, like others, is that we are evil, we are hateful, we are, so obviously we have no feelings. So, I'm not saying that he was feeling like that. I'm not saying, but inevitably that will happen. And when it does happen, it'll be seen as a win by some of these people in the media.
No, it was an absolutely vicious attack, and like, thank God James is a strong man and didn't really bother. But like that could bother people, and people could, You
You never know. You just don't know.
You never know why. And so, like today,
Because
for example,
these papers will be the first ones running stories about from a celebrity this and a celebrity that talking about male mental health. Yet they turn around and do this.
yeah, 100%. Like there was a vicious hit piece today about me in the mainstream media, one of them rag
Right.
newspapers.
I
Calling me
saw
all
it. It
sorts of.
was disgusting. Yeah, I saw it,
Yeah.
and I thought the exact same thing today. I thought the exact same thing. That whole point of that story was to dehumanize, and it was vicious again. And not only was the what I noticed of reading it was, again, not only the impact this would have on you. I mean, in my opinion, was slanderous. I wouldn't be surprised if you had a legal case, except the cost of law in Ireland is very expensive. But I then looked at who they relied on as a source. There's this guy, Mark Malone. I only know him now because I had him blocked long ago because he was vicious on the timeline on X. And so I just said, who's this lunatic? But I noticed that he was there last week going on about me again. Somebody said, hey, and he was talking about his father must hate him or something. His father must be this. And I think, who is this guy? What's he talking about? What a lunatic. And so a cursory look at the guy shows that he's a left-wing anarchist. Like, this guy is a hardcore political extremist. And yet he's now apparently running an NGO or part of an NGO, sorry, that is receiving taxpayers' funding. So how on earth? This is like America in 2017 when we had Antifa guys running working the newspapers, which I exposed, by the way. And so I was shocked when I saw that this vicious hit piece against you and some of these other people, that this was their source. This is their reliable source. And this guy is getting government money. So there's so many layers of rot in Ireland that just need to be rooted out. And I talk about that again in the book, but I talk about this regularly with people, that it's not just political. Like, we need to build out an infrastructure that either matches the left in terms of their dominance in NGOs, think tanks, etc., or we need to have politicians who understand that just the depth of change needed. Like, we need politicians who are pushing forward legislation to ensure viewpoint neutrality in classrooms, particularly in universities. We need to have politicians who are pushing forward for a defunding of NGOs. Like this guy, he's an open activist. He's an anarchist. He shouldn't be getting a penny of taxpayer money, obviously. And he certainly shouldn't be in the national papers as a credible source.
Yeah, any hit piece that's done on me, he is always sourced, or that NGO, heavily funded NGO, very influential NGO, they're always sourced, and he feeds them information.
Is it Hope Not Hate or something?
I think it's like the Irish version of that.
Okay. And so I noticed this. I noticed that he seems to have back channels into all the media, various media bodies. But again, this is not a reliable person, just from his political bias, but more so, like I said, I thankfully haven't had much to do with him, but I haven't blocked, but he'll only come to my attention if somebody, tags me or something on it. But what I have seen of him is that this guy's a raving lunatic. He's gone out ranting about me, my family, they must not like me, all this stuff like this. Who is this person? I mean, and how did these people become gatekeepers or moral arbiters for the rest of the country?
100%, Owen. Look, is there anything else you'd like to speak about, maybe about your book and why people should get your book and read it and pass it on? By the way, you can get Eoin Lenihan's book on our shop, irishpatriotstore.com. I think it's the only place where people can get a signed copy by you, Eoin. So click the link in the bio, right. Get Eoin's book. And Eoin, why should people get your book?
Well, I think it ties into what we were talking about just there, how you go out and talk to a lot of farmers and older lads who are living in a different world, essentially, from what's going on, that they'll still vote Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael without understanding. That was the main intention behind writing this book. I also saw that, particularly because of the media, I call it the national media firewall, I have a chapter on it, that they have very successfully being the PR arm of the government, such that a lot of older people in particular have no idea what's going on in the country. So I've tried to distill all of the rot, all of the problems that are happening in Ireland into this easy to access source. And my attitude is a book in the hand is better than an argument across the dinner table. Because I know from talking to a lot of people that, you know, they often have vicious fights with family members. People are often the black sheep of the family, you know, because of their political beliefs, because simply because others simply can't believe them, because what they're seeing on the news media doesn't align with what you're showing very clearly at ground level through your various videos and whatnot. So I would say if people want to buy it to help wake up that Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael's core demo and win them to the right. And secondly, like you said, once they've if you have a copy yourself, please make sure to pass it on to somebody else, you know, so that, you know, we're spreading the word.
Look, fantastic, Eoin. Look, I really appreciate you coming on. I would actually like to bring you on more often, if you're maybe once a month or so, because you're very, very knowledgeable. Just to get the message out there. So any other final thoughts?
Oh, I do. I have one very important final thought. That shirt looks seriously savage. Tell us more about that.
I told this shirt here. This is a jersey we created ourselves, put a lot of effort and time into. Shield and Lenihan Gaelic jersey, got the Irish Republic on it. It's got the proclamation in the back. It's got our logos on it. It's just like to help us fund our work. And just, you know, I don't know. Oh, sorry. You're sorry. I muted you there. It's just, I suppose, just to help us fund our work. You know, we're active on the streets every single day of the week. We produce a newspaper. It's not cheap, not easy. Yep. So we're fighting on all fronts.
That's where I'd leave it. You deserve to I hope you sell plenty of them, because the work you're doing is very important. I know you get a lot of abuse, and that hit piece in the newspaper today just proves it. So more power to you.
Well, I've got the Lord on my side, so, you know, it doesn't bother me.
Good for you.
Good man, Eoin. Thanks very much, and God bless you. See you later.
Bye. Good
man. Bye-bye. Okay, everybody, that was Eoin Lenihan. Good man yourself, Eoin. Thanks very much for coming on. Really appreciate it. Sorry, I should have went to the comments section. I should have. It's a problem that I have with interviews. I should always say, look, any questions, get them into Eoin. Let me go quickly. Matt says, I'm an American of proud Irish heritage, but with immigration situation in Dublin, makes me wary to take my family there. If the leftist Irish politicians can bring in third worlders and to destroy Irish culture, the Irish people can kick them out to save Ireland. Well, just don't go to Dublin. Like, there's lots of places in Ireland where it's very homogenous. Like, go to Donegal, gets constantly voted the most beautiful place in Ireland. I'm not just saying it because that's where I'm from, but Donegal is beautiful. Like 2.5, 3 hour drive from Dublin, rent a car, go up to Donegal. You can't beat it. What else has everybody said? Niall is doing enough, says Booker T. Lads, give a share out and let the people know Niall and Dr. Eoin Lenihan are doing God's work. Thanks very much. Joe Carroll, how are we doing? Anyone in the chat think Niall should call a protest? We'll see about that. No way an 80-year-old is fit for leading the world. I don't know what you're up there. So good to see everybody in the live chat. Thanks so much for tuning in. Look, let me go over here, though. This is our shop. This is Eoin Lenihan's book. We were discussing there, Vandalizing Ireland. I think it's the only place you can get a signed copy, from my understanding now. I could be wrong, but from my understanding, it's the only place you can get a signed copy delivered to your front door anywhere in the world, actually. So order now. Eoin was talking about our shirt. That's the shirt there. That's the Gaelic jersey, the Irish Republic one. Now we just launched a brand new top, the Erin Go Bra one. I really like this one. I can't wait to get this one. There's a lot of new neck, different. There's stripes on the sleeve. It's green, Erin Go Bra, completely different. Got the Celtic knot on there. So that's the Erin Go Bra. Orders now. Pre-order. Get your orders on, everybody. And just check out our store in general. We got lots of things. Now, see, probably my favourite thing in the shop right now, I've got one myself. If you see me out and about, I'm always wearing it. All the time. Everywhere I go, I'm wearing this hoodie. Erin Go Bra one is absolutely beautiful. Like, words cannot describe how nice of a hoodie this is. It's just class. The quality is really good. I'm a cotton hoodie, and the Erin Go Bra is just beautiful. I'm not just saying that. And we dispatch worldwide, by the way. This is my favourite thing in the shop right now. I wear it everywhere I go. If you see me out and about in the shops or whatever, walking about the towns, you'll see me wearing this hoodie because I absolutely love it. And by ordering, you're supporting our work, all right? Another thing you can do is join our political movement, Shield Lenihan. Click the link in the bio. This is a membership pack you will receive. This is the membership badge you will receive. What else? You get this Who We Are booklet. And you will also get the framed 1916 framed proclamation. You also get the Irish tricolour flag in your membership pack and the membership card. That's the standard membership pack. We also have a gold membership pack as well. So make sure, click the link in the bio, join as a member, or go to our shop. Okay, everybody, that's it for me tonight. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll bring you on more guests. I'm planning to bring a special guest on every Sunday if we can do that. We'll be live again Tuesday, God willing. Aye, so thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you all soon. God bless you all. Aaron, go brag.